The Vimana were made of precious metals and adorned the sky like shining stars. They were able to fly at extremely high speeds and could change direction at will. They were armed with powerful weapons and could destroy entire armies. The Vimana were used by the gods and demigods to travel through the sky and to fight in wars.
In the heart of the Indus Valley lie the ancient ruins of a lost city, a towering metropolis dating back thousands of years. It is said that this city was so vast that it housed more than 70,000 inhabitants, a crossroads of trade, culture, and human ingenuity. But at the height of its greatness, a mysterious and devastating event forced all its inhabitants to flee suddenly, leaving behind only silence and desolation. This is the enigmatic story of Mohenjo Daro, a mysterious place that still sparks debate among scholars around the world today, and inspires theories so extraordinary that they overturn everything we thought we knew. Today we will talk about Mohenjo Daro, about an ancient conflict that saw the use of extraordinary weapons of destruction, and about a mysterious civilization that vanished without a trace. But before we embark on this fascinating journey, as always, we invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our new videos and to support our work. In a remote corner of southern Pakistan, nestled in the Indus Valley, about 300 kilometers northeast of Karachi, it lies buried beneath the sands of time, the city of Mohenjo Daro, an enigma of stone and earth that speaks of an ancient, forgotten civilization. Over 5,000 years ago, this city was the beating heart of a civilization that knew the secrets of urban planning, hydraulic engineering, and art. But a sudden, devastating event erased its history forever. It was only towards the end of the 19th century that some work related to the construction of a railway would accidentally bring to light some mysterious artifacts. But it would not be until 1922 when the British archaeologist Sir John Marshall, during some investigations in the Indus Valley region, began the excavations that would bring to light the remains of this wonderful and immense city. The streets of Mohenjo Daro appear to be laid out with incredible geometric precision, forming an intricate maze of rectangular blocks and regular intersections. The houses, to make them more resistant, are built with sun-dried clay bricks and stand on raised platforms to protect them from floods. In addition to these, there are also granaries. The most iconic places in the city include the Great Bath, a large pool surrounded by porticos and steps. Its exact function remains a subject of debate among scholars. Some believe it may have been used for religious or purification rituals, while others think its real function was that of a public bath, similar to those built centuries later by the Romans. In addition to residential and public structures, Mohenjo Daro also features a sophisticated drainage system made up of channels and manholes, which demonstrates the technical skill of the ancient engineers. This system allowed the inhabitants to manage the monsoon rains and keep the city free from flooding. It is believed that the inhabitants of Mohenjo Daro were a peaceful people devoted to agriculture. No particular weapons or military artifacts have been found in the city. However, the city appears to be protected by solid defensive walls. As we know, most human civilizations developed mainly along great rivers, as demonstrated by the ancient Egyptian civilization, which flourished along the Nile, or the Sumerian civilization, which prospered between the Tigris and the Euphrates. It is not surprising, then, that a flourishing civilization arose along the banks of the Indus, capable of covering a wide area that extends from Afghanistan to northwestern India, thus embracing a vast territory. Until the beginning of the 20th century, however, this extraordinary and ancient culture was almost completely unknown, until the remains of the cities of Harappa and Mohenjo Daro were rediscovered. The latter is considered the main urban center of the Indus Valley, and one of the most impressive cultural centers of antiquity. This discovery overturned the prevailing beliefs among historians and academics, who thought that Indian civilization had emerged around the year 1250 BC. In light of the archaeological evidence, however, it became necessary to update the dating of Indian civilization, moving it back by about 1,500 years to 3000 BC. Although Mohenjo-Daro is the most well-known discovery, over 1,000 settlements were identified in the region, including Harappa and Ganeriwala in modern-day Pakistan, and Dholavira, Kalibangan, Rakhigarhi, Rupar, and Lothal in India. These discoveries have highlighted the richness and complexity of the Indus Valley civilization, a civilization that is still largely shrouded in mystery today. Among these mysteries is surely the sudden disappearance of the city of Mohenjo-Daro. What archaeologists discovered during the excavations has indeed raised many questions and doubts. As we were saying, the city seems to have been abandoned suddenly, and during the investigations about 40 skeletons were uncovered which are believed to have belonged to men and women, and they appear to have died a mysterious and sudden death. In the late 1970s, the researcher William David Davenport, after many years of research, published a study that caused a great stir because of the incredible conclusions he reached. According to Davenport's research, the city of Mohenjo-Daro was allegedly destroyed by an explosion very similar to what a modern nuclear bomb would be able to unleash. To support his thesis, Davenport cites some clues that were allegedly found during the excavations. In particular, he refers to some skeletons that were supposedly found in the streets and inside the buildings of the city. These skeletons appear to be calcified, as if the victims, before dying, had been exposed to a powerful wave of heat that caught them by surprise and burned them alive in a matter of moments. Davenport also claims to have identified the epicenter of the explosion. In this place, he claims to have found melted and vitrified rock, something similar to what is found during nuclear explosions, where the ground, due to the immense heat, melts and becomes vitrified. But even if we assume that such an event could have happened in the distant past, who or what could have triggered it? According to Davenport, the answer can be found in the ancient Hindu texts, particularly in the Ramayana. The Ramayana is an epic poem and at the same time a sacred Hindu text. It is composed of 100,000 verses. The Ramayana, like the other national epic, the Mahabharata, is a tale of wars and battles that took place in a vague legendary antiquity in the Indus Valley. In these texts, the use of incredibly powerful weapons is described, capable of unleashing unprecedented destruction. But that's not all. A technology is described that would have been impossible for a civilization of that era. For example, the Vimana are frequently mentioned, capable of flying in the sky powered by a mysterious force, and they were used both for transporting people or goods and for military purposes.
The Sanskrit term is Vimana, which literally means inhabited artificial bird. The sacred books say that the Vimana can fly, and they describe them as real machines. It is also said that inside them it is neither too hot nor too cold. The air is kept comfortable in every season.
But David Davenport goes further. In the Ramayana, there is mention of a certain Durvasa, who, offended by the inhabitants of the city called Lanka, gives them a 7-day warning, at the end of which he promises a calamity that will fall like fire from the sky. The prophecy, according to the text, comes true when Rama attacks Lanka, and during the battle he sets the city on fire, fulfilling the prophetic words of Durvasa.
Then the sage Durvasa, his mind disturbed by anger, pronounced this curse against the city of Lanka. May this city, with its gardens and its palaces, be destroyed by fire within 7 days. May the fire from the sky fall upon it and leave no trace of this wicked city.
Following the indications found in Hindu mythology, Davenport goes in search of the city of Lanka, which we can describe as a sort of Indian Sodom and Gomorrah. And through a linguistic and geographical analysis, he identifies the city of Mohenjo-Daro as the ancient city of Lanka. The meaning of the name Mohenjo-Daro is place of death, but this would be a more recent name, perhaps given precisely after its terrible destruction. Previously, according to the researcher, the real name of the city was Lanka, which means island, and the very fact that it was called Lanka, that is, island, would be confirmed by the fact that in ancient times the city was surrounded by a secondary branch of the Indus River, which today appears to be dried up. So could Mohenjo-Daro be the mythical Lanka present in Hindu mythology? And could these texts be the testimony in the form of a myth of a tremendous destruction? According to Davenport, yes, the city would have been hit by a highly advanced weapon that destroyed it. But what kind of weapon would it have been? Someone has suggested that it could have been an atomic weapon, but if we assume the use of a nuclear device, something still doesn't seem to add up. The destructive power of an atomic bomb would have actually leveled the entire city, while we can see that the stone and mud walls are still standing. And this wouldn't be possible if Mohenjo-Daro had been hit by a nuclear device. In fact, if we compare the destruction of Hiroshima to that found at Mohenjo-Daro, we see that they are apparently not comparable. The bomb dropped over the Japanese city actually caused large-scale destruction that does not seem to be present at Mohenjo-Daro, or at least in what we currently believe to be the entire city. Besides this, some detractors ask, if a nuclear bomb had been dropped there several millennia ago, shouldn't we be recording high levels of radioactivity today? This is not entirely true. If we take the case of Hiroshima as an example, the bomb did not explode on the ground, but at an altitude of about 600 meters. This certainly caused destruction, immediate devastation, and radioactivity in the area. But this was not significant enough to persist until today. Most of the radiation was actually carried away by the wind. This is why, just 80 years later, the Hiroshima area does not have high levels of radioactivity. But the mysteries don't stop here. As we said, during the excavations, about 40 skeletons were found. The archaeologist John Marshall talks about some of these findings, ruling out the possibility that they could be regular burials. For example, a small family consisting of a father, mother, and little son was found crushed in the street while they were peacefully walking. But that's not all. The analyzed bones show signs of calcination, as if they had been subjected to an intense wave of heat. So, should the possibility of a nuclear device be completely ruled out? And if it wasn't an atomic bomb, what caused the end of Mohenjo-Daro? A possible solution might still come from the ancient texts of Hindu mythology. In the Mahabharata, very sophisticated weapons are described, capable of generating a huge amount of energy, such as the Agni Astra.
Drona, the teacher, an expert in the art of war, summoned the divine weapon Agneastra. The flaming weapon appeared in the sky, illuminating the battlefield with its dazzling glow. A rain of fire fell from the skies, incinerating the warriors and their horses.
But if it wasn't a nuclear device, but rather a class of weapons unknown to us, capable of producing enormous devastation, this could be the reason why significant traces of radioactivity have not been found, or why the destruction that occurred at Mohenjo-Daro appears different from that of Hiroshima. If we look at the vast arsenal that states possess today, can we rule out that Mohenjo-Daro was the victim of an attack with a powerful weapon? Maybe different from a nuclear one, but just as destructive? So at this point, a question we could ask ourselves is, who could be those possibly responsible for this destruction? Mohenjo-Daro, as well as other settlements in the region, testify to the presence of a flourishing civilization that existed in ancient times in the Indus Valley. A civilization that until the last century was completely unknown, but was able to build buildings, a complex water system, and maintain important commercial relations in an era earlier than what had been imagined. It is also true, however, that at the moment this civilization does not seem to show the characteristics of a society advanced enough to produce cutting-edge technology like the Vimana or the Agneastra. According to what is written in the ancient Hindu texts, although the protagonists of the Mahabharata were human beings, they were endowed with superhuman powers and abilities, but this was due to their divine lineage, as they were considered direct descendants of gods and demigods. The sophisticated technology they possessed was therefore not the result of their own work or wisdom, but had been given to them by the gods. Divine weapons like the Agnyastra were said to have been forged by the deities, as well as the Vimana, which are often depicted as flying chariots capable of traveling through the air, space, and underwater. Regarding the Vimana, some researchers claim to have found traces of them even in texts from the Christian tradition, where similar objects are called fiery chariots. One description is present, for example, in a passage that tells the story of the prophet Elijah's ascent to heaven.
As they were walking and talking, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated them from each other. Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, the chariot of Israel and its horsemen." He did not see him anymore. Then he took his clothes and tore them in two. He also picked up the cloak that had fallen from Elijah and went back, stopping at the bank of the Jordan.
Mohenjo-Daro is therefore the evidence of an ancient and epic battle between divine beings, a battle that involved the populations who lived in that region at that time. If we look at Indian mythology, it would seem so, but who were the protagonists of these battles? Human beings descended from an advanced civilization whose traces we have lost, or beings coming from other planets? The story of divine or semi-divine beings, an ancient conflict, and cities destroyed by powerful weapons. These are not exclusive to Indian mythology. As we know, we find this story in many different forms in the texts of many ancient cultures spread across all corners of the world. Is it possible then that in a remote era, unknown events took place and that Mohenjo-Daro is evidence of them?
A single projectile charged with all the power of the universe, a blazing column of smoke and flames, bright as 10,000 suns, rose in all its splendor. An unknown weapon, an iron thunderbolt, a gigantic messenger of death that reduced the entire Vrishni's and Andaka's race to ashes.
Clearly, we have no certainty that all this happened. But if we look at Mohenjo-Daro, we can't help but admit that there are some mysterious elements present, which, if they don't represent proof, at least appear as clues that invite us to ask questions. A recent study carried out by the Italian journalist Enrico Baccarini, while confirming that there are no higher levels of radioactivity in the region, has also confirmed the truth of some observations. The structures in the immediate vicinity of what is considered the epicenter of the catastrophe appear to be entirely absent. They look like small mounds, which only upon close examination reveal their nature as bricks and broken pottery scattered on the ground. Further confirmation would come from the analysis of some samples taken from the site, which, once examined, appear to be melted and vitrified. Like the famous trinitites, that is, like those stones which, due to the heat of a nuclear explosion, are exposed for a few seconds to an immense amount of heat. These samples would have shown significant similarities to those taken in New Mexico after the nuclear tests carried out by the United States in 1945. According to detractors, however, what is called the center of the explosion would actually be a dump where pottery-making waste was thrown away. This would explain the presence of vitrified rocks, which would still have different properties from the famous trinitites. Even though we haven't reached an absolute truth, what we can definitely say is that there is still much to discover and investigate about this fascinating people and their mysterious traditions. Before we finish, we want to recall a phrase spoken by Davenport, which, when read today in times when the fear of a nuclear conflict pervades our lives, certainly takes on a very important meaning. Davenport wrote, "In the past lies the solution for our future, and we can only hope that the tragedies of the past will serve as a warning to all of us for the future of our species." At this point, We are really curious to know your opinion. Let us know in the comments what you think. And if you like the video, subscribe to the channel to support our work. See you in the next story.